Hi everyone, Dr. Nick and Sonya here from Divine Elements, and we're just taking a few minutes here to chat about 2020. So normally every year we think about a word that we want to kind of anchor into, that is kind of the foundation of like how we move through the next year and the decisions that we make, and usually it creates a learning experience. I don't plan on having a word this year. Mine is a phrase or a question.
I was like, you're not doing a word this year?
No, but I think Nick's doing a word, because what happens is, for instance, if you say your word is joy or happiness, I feel you get tested. So my word last year was devotion, and I was tested in that area. So it brings up challenges where you have to rise up with that word, and it gives you opportunities to experience what the opposite would feel like. So I'm trying to reframe it this year, and I'm going to have a question that I will share with you after.
Well, you just really threw a curveball here, because I had no idea that you're going to a phrase.
Yeah.
You just upgraded our word of the year.
Yeah.
Okay, so mine's radical trust, and that's because I know that for me, when I meet resistance, I can easily move into doubt.
So what's going to happen now, Dr. Nick, we're going to watch him meet a lot of resistance in the next year.
So what do we do with resistance? Do we run away from it, or do we face it head on?
You move through it.
You move through it. You lean into the resistance.
Yeah. So I'll share my phrase. What I plan on doing is, I actually heard it on a podcast, and now I can't remember which one it was, but I really liked what it brings to you, and it's all about receiving and giving. So the first thing is, I have everything. What can I give, and how can I shine? So I feel like if you phrase it as a question, you're gonna get answers from the universe. So now you look really defeated.
I'm really disappointed with my word of the year now.
So now I'm gonna sit back and observe what happens here while I ask the questions and just receive the information and open myself up to that. So we want to talk a little bit about
Wait a second. While we're on the word of the year, I would love a share on how you met resistance or met challenge with devotion, because you sort of like brought that out, and I want to know why you switched over to a phrase, because now I have to wait a whole year before I give myself
before you
a
can
phrase.
switch. So yeah, my word was devotion, and we had our retreat last year, which was amazing, and that last day, Dr. Nick had an experience where it could have taken his life, and my father-in-law. I shouldn't have brought this up. Now I'm going to cry. And then we almost lost our son in Italy. And then there were many different times where I was tested and challenged to anchor myself in the learning that I have received before. So I recognized that it was testing my devotion to faith and the bigger picture of life. So after noticing that, I recognize that it's going to be more productive if I ask a question, so that I can then open myself up to receiving the answers. Because I think something that we don't all know is how to receive. Yeah. So like, how do we take time out of our day to listen to what those signals are?
Wow. You just dropped a big bomb there. That was amazing though, because it's so true. In those moments in life, it's so common to ask why. Why me? What's happening? Because in this experience that Sonya was sharing, when I had my near death experience with my father in the ocean, it was really I had disappointed myself because I wasn't feeling gratitude about making it through. And my word of the year was devotion too, and I really struggled with where's the gift in this. It's like it took me months actually until I went to men's camp, and it was an immersive experience where I actually was releasing trauma, and actually came to a realization that I don't have to feel gratitude and all those things, but what I did anchor into and what came from me was feeling purposeful, and knowing that, kind of like the question that you're asking yourself this year is, how can I shine, and how can I show up, and how can I be in a place of service, because obviously I'm still meant to be here. So it's funny, because even with you in this experience, I was so focused on my challenge with it, and it took me probably a couple of months before I asked Sonya how she was doing with what we went through.
What happened, yeah. Yeah, so it's the reframe, right? And so our children teach us about reframing all the time. So a funny story about our youngest, I mean, it's funny and not funny, but he's 5 years old and all of a sudden he's dropping F-bombs everywhere.
Yeah.
And we're of course reacting to it because we don't understand why he's doing that, but he's doing it to get a reaction out of us because he thinks it's funny. And then yesterday our oldest, just looked at us and was like, well, why is it a bad word? So why, if we all think it's a bad word, it's going to make it a bad word. What if we just don't think it's a bad word? Then we don't have to, then it doesn't matter. We don't have to react. So I just stared at him for a minute and I was like, wow. That's with everything. It's all dependent on how we're interpreting something, and how we're responding to it is a choice.
Yeah. Yeah, and you watch Tony Robbins, I mean, he's dropping F-bombs all over the place.
That's right. I mean, he's using it in a different way.
Exactly.
But I mean, he talks about this. There's an emotion, and then we have a meaning to that emotion, and it's that meaning that's driving our reaction. So if we change the meaning, our response will also change.
Yeah, so true. And I want to relay this idea of interpretation into just conversations that Sonya and I have. Like, there's times in relationship where you're butting heads, right? Like, we never do that. No. So I mean, obviously we do, but where we get stuck, or where I know I get stuck a lot more, because I'm constantly wanting to make sure that she's happy, and so I'm looking at an interpretation of how she's responding to me, and filtering none of what's going on for her, but everything that's going on for me when she's communicating. And so I'm interpreting things through the lens that I see, and in doing so, we're not on the same page. And so instead of asking for more feedback, for listening more instead of just interpreting everything, we can get stuck. And so we want to have a conversation on relationships and how to shift some of those interpretations. Yeah,
and it's been interesting that this has been coming up for us this last, I would say 6 months, because the retreat that we're going to be teaching in February is on relationship. And not just relationship in couples, but relationship to ourselves, and how we're representing ourselves in the world, and how we're interpreting our worth. It's our relationship with something bigger. It's our relationship with our peers. It's our relationship with each other, just as humans, and just like the global community. So it's relationships is everything. Like, this is where we learn. Yeah. So that's why we chose that theme. And of course, just like we were talking about in the beginning, when you choose a word, you're going to get tested. And now we chose relationship, and we want to teach on that. So of course we were tested. Yeah. And that was part of like the word from last year too, was devotion, and devotion to a relationship, devotion as a relationship of parent to child, or devotion as a doctor patient, or there's lots of different relationships and different ways to be devoted, and devoted to your own personal practice, right? And this is one of the things that I really love about immersion settings, is that when you plug yourself into a version of yourself that doesn't have all the constant stressors that you're used to, you can actually sink right into what's actually going on. And you can start to recreate a different version of yourself so that you can be more resilient, more responsive, more intelligent in your daily life, because you're not so constantly surrounded by all your triggers. Yeah, it provides you with a tool to pause, so that when you're interpreting with that movie that's always playing, you can actually pause and recognize what's actually going on and listen, like Nick was referring to. Yeah. And there's also something really beautiful about a group dynamic. And so the Institute of Heart Math measures something called heart coherence, where they have different stations set up around the world. And they different times in crisis, whether it be like wars or peace gatherings or global meditations, this company is actually measuring different levels of coherence, which is basically how much of an electromagnetic field is being generated from hearts that actually influence the consciousness, behaviors, attitudes, activities of other people. And so when you put yourself into an immersive environment like this, in retreats and in group settings, you're actually collectively raising your vibration, your consciousness, your energy levels, so that you have more ability to move through your challenges, right? It's like, I was talking to a patient earlier today about how we set up our day, right? Like the vibration that we are surrounded by is a vibration that we're going to vibrate at for the rest of the day. So when you're in a group setting and there's a collective vibration that's working towards the same goal, which is to better ourselves and to know ourselves better, we're elevating each other, so that when we can come back to life, that we have that foundation that we can fall back on. because we're going to get tested when we come back, of course. It's like you don't just go and all of a sudden everything's shifted. There's going to be moments that show up to test you, and then you'll start recognizing like, okay, I created this tool and now I can navigate through life a little bit differently.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's lots of cool stuff that we do on the retreat, and so basically we want to share some of those experiences that we create for people, and of course we've got a certain amount of slots of people that are available to come. We'd love to be able to fill this up like we did last year, and create more experiences for more people. So let's tell a little bit about where it is. And
so it's in Baja. We love Baja. It's the desert and the ocean, and even that space, it's called Pachamama, which means Mother Earth. And you get to stay in these amazing teepees. You're right by the ocean. There was whales last time, every time we'd come out of our yoga class. And it's a really beautiful setting, and the food is amazing as well. The chefs there, it's all organic from their own local farms, and we are also going to have an element of fasting that we're going to teach. So there will be intermittent fasting, and those that choose to fast more, you'll be guided through that. And
provoked.
And provoked a little bit, just nudged a little bit. And we have a yoga class in the morning, and then workshop, lunch for some, whoever decide to do that, and then another workshop in the afternoon with Andrea and her husband Jake, who are also masters at relationship and coaching and giving. And we always have a fun evening, from like drumming to dancing to fire to lots of other things.
There's also something really interesting about the energy of desert. I had the opportunity of being at a retreat center in Joshua Tree a few months ago. And it was incredible raw energy in the desert. It's very transformative. It's very provoking. It has an element of rawness to it that encourages you to sort of open up, right? And sort of break through the dryness, the scab or the scab of consciousness, essentially. And you open yourself up to so much. And you know, seeing some of the people go through the process of these awakenings as the days went on was, I mean, it's why we were lit up for like months after this retreat.
Yeah, you see this transformation in the beginning. It's like we're teaching, and then all of a sudden everybody's teaching, and it's a collective, it's a community, it's a tribe, it's a group, and it's not about us at all. It's about what everybody is co-creating, and that's what it needs to be about. Like we're trying to teach or reignite connection between each other, and then that connection will then create more of a connection with the earth and like just everything.
Your nutrition, how you detox, how you optimize your health through lifestyle practices, through your breath work, through your yoga practice, through it all.
So it might feel overwhelming now because, you know, with Christmas coming, even though it's a beautiful time to connect, but there's so many other beliefs and patterns and anxieties that show up with this holiday. So I would recommend that you really sit with yourself and ask yourself what you want for 2020, and if this, what we described, is what you want, come to the retreat. It's such an amazing experience.
Yeah, we kind of say, you know, we all have a daily practice, right? A daily practice could be brushing your teeth. It could be, you know, eating breakfast, or if you're trained by us, you're probably skipping breakfast. But you may have a daily practice that helps you sort of slightly anchor back in, and we do. We have a daily sadhana practice. We do a nighttime meditation where we stare in each other's eyes at nighttime, which is really fun, but we're consistent with it, and that's like kind of like your kindling of your fire. You're keeping that consciousness and the energy and the vitality and your health plan sort of continuing. But then when you hit an immersion setting, a retreat, it's the bonfire. It's the bonfire, and you really step in. You really shed a lot of the old stories, and you start to create your future, because you're in this stillness place of where those triggers are gone. You're actually able to really deeply create.
Yeah, so come create with us. If you want more information, write your name down below. We can email you or put your email there too. There's information on our website. Just come, just do it. Take the leap, gift yourself this gift.
And there's ways to make it easier with a payment plan to make it
because we just want people there.
We want to share this with you. So check out naturallybraveretreats.com. Check out the Facebook page for more information.
Give us a call at the clinic or email us. We're here to serve.
And happy holidays, because we're just around the corner.
That's right.
Okay.
So maybe don't set a word intention. Ask yourself a question.
Ask a phrase. I'm gonna have to try to retweak my phrase.
Too late.
Okay. Okay. All the best. Lots of love.